Hello and welcome back to Israel with Aline. We are in Jerusalem in front of the walls and the Lion's Gate. Why? Because very close to here is the pool of Bethesda, also known as the Sheep's Pool, the place where the healing of the paralytic took place. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you're ready, let's get started. Just a few meters from the Lion's Gate, we find the entrance to Bethesda, or as it's pronounced in Aramaic, Bethesda, which means the house of mercy. In the pool where the healing of the paralytic took place, this pool is also known as the Sheep's Pool or the Probatic Pools. But to better understand this miracle, we have to understand what this place was like at that time. So come with me because we are going to take a trip back in time, a journey more than 2,000 years ago. Ego. We have arrived at the oldest part of this complex. This is what we call the North Pools. They were built nothing more and nothing less than 2,800 years ago. They were a rainwater dam, and from here water was taken to the city. So this place existed well before the arrival of Jesus. And this here is the South Pool. It will be built around the year 200 before Christ, and it is very well preserved. As you can see, the side, all this part here is original, folks, including there is a plaster that made the pool permeable, and at this time the pool also starts being called the Sheep's Pool. Why, where are the sheep? Tradition says that here the sheep were washed, that were taken to the temple to be sacrificed, since we are very close to the Temple of Jerusalem. Now there's a small problem with that theory. The pool is 13 meters deep, and it's not easy to wash sheep in such a deep pool. So maybe the correct theory is that water was taken from here to wash the sheep. And it is also believed that here is where some people performed the purification baths, the mikveh, before going up to the Temple of Jerusalem. And the water that came out of here was fundamental to Jerusalem in biblical times. The water was taken to the city, but also to the Temple of Jerusalem. In fact, we can see here part of the channels that went towards the temple. Now there is a very important building very close from here, which is the Antonia Fortress. We got to know a little bit about it in another video because the Antonia Fortress is where Jesus' trial took place. It was a Roman fortress where there were Roman troops and troops and troops. Now the Romans, what religion were they? They were pagans. They believed in many gods. Among them, in Asclepius. Asclepius was the god of medicine and healing. And they built healing pools very close to here. Behind me now are these pagan pools of Asclepius. Now we're talking about Jerusalem at the height of the Jewish period. The Jerusalem temple, folks, was a few hundred meters from here. How can there be a pagan temple in Jerusalem? We have to remember a few things. The first is that Jerusalem at that time and all of Israel was not free, but was dominated by the Romans, who were then pagans. And second, this area here was outside the walls. As the book of John 5 tells us, the sheep pool was near the sheep gate, but in this case, we are talking about outside the walls near the gate. So imagine, folks, there were pools here that functioned as a mini pagan temple inside Jerusalem at the time of the temple. But the most impressive and perhaps a little sad is that these healing pools also start to become popular among some Jews. And then we start to get to the times of Jesus. When Jesus arrived here, there were Jews gathered around, paralytics, disabled, lepers, and they were here. Why? Because of the influence of Roman pagan culture. Now is the time for us to read the Bible together from the book of John chapter 5. After this, there was a feast among the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, there is a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, which has 5 porticos. In these lay a great multitude of sick people, blind, lame, and paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and stirred up the water. Whoever then first after the stirring up of the water stepped in was made well of whatever disease he had. And a certain man was there who had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been in that condition for a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to get well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. While I am trying to get there, someone else goes down ahead of me." Jesus said to him, "Get up, take your mat and walk." And immediately the man was made well, and he took up his bed and began to walk. So we understand that this paralyzed man was here standing still, waiting for what? Waiting for healing through the waters? A tradition, once again, influenced by Roman paganism. But look how interesting. Jesus comes to him and asks, "Do you want to be healed?" And what is he going to answer? Instead of answering yes, of course he's going to answer, "I have no one to put me in the water." He is clearly associating healing with water. And so when Jesus heals him, Jesus is not only healing him, but giving a lesson to everyone who was here, that healing does not come from the waters. And so when Jesus heals this man, he goes and says, "Rise, take up your bed and walk," and does not put him in the water. And this is a very clear message to all who were here, that healing does not come from the waters, but that healing only comes from God. And one of my favorite parts here at Bethesda is this one we're going to go down now. We are in the North Pool area, and look how cool, Roman cistern. I mean, we are going to go down now to an original cistern from Roman times, and it is still full of water to this day. Guys, imagine a 2,000-year-old water system still working. It's really amazing. So let's go. Let's go on our adventure. A cistern is a water reservoir. As we saw, this reservoir is from the Roman period and was adapted in later periods. Since we know that in the times of Jesus, this area were open-air pools. And as we can see this one here, it is closed. And it even has a somewhat mysterious air. It is very dark, as you can see, but we can see water at the bottom of it. Since now in Israel it is summer, the water level is very low, but during the winter, which is the rainy season, the level rises quite a bit. So the reservoir is still working to this day. Although nowadays this water is no longer used for the city or for the temple, since the temple no longer exists. But it's interesting to see the reservoir working. What will be done in this place then, after the temples of Jesus? Do you think people have learned their lesson? Not everyone. A temple for Asclepius, the god of medicine, will be built here again. So those little pagan healing pools are going to turn into an even bigger temple. Perhaps precisely because of the influence of the healing that Jesus did here, the importance of healing through the waters became even greater. We can see irony in this. But then here, Hadrian, in the year 130, after Christ is going to build a large temple for Asclepius. But this temple will later be replaced by something else. By what? By a Byzantine church. The Byzantine period is the first Christian period of Israel. And we can clearly see the remains of it. These large high arches that we are seeing are precisely from this period. This church, several times it will be destroyed and rebuilt. And the last church built here is in the Crusader period, which we are seeing it here on top, all this high part. So we have here different historical phases. The oldest are the pools, the pool of Bethesda. After this here were built Roman pagan pools. On top of this is where Jesus will perform his miracle. The temple of Asclepius will be built, and then the Christians will come and build the first Byzantine church here, then the Crusader church. But what is here today is what we are going to see now. And this French flag here is a clue. Let's go. Why is there a French flag here in the middle of Jerusalem? Because of the Ottoman Turks. Why is Turkey in this story? What happens is Israel was part of the Ottoman Turkish Empire for 400 years, and they, as a Muslim empire, didn't see much value in this place, religious and historical value. And so when the Crimean War happens, France helps the Ottoman Turks to win. And as a thank you for the help in the war, they are going to take this place, all this Bethesda area and this church, and give it as a gift to France. So legally we are now inside France and not Israel. It's like an embassy. It's one more of the different things that are here in Jerusalem. But let's now go together into this church quickly and understand what it is. This is a Crusader church, meaning it's about 900 years old, and it's one of the few churches from that time that has survived almost intact to this day. And the name of this church is Saint Anne, because in the Catholic and Orthodox tradition, Anne was the grandmother of Jesus, and she lived here with Joachim. And another amazing thing about this church is that the echo, the acoustics are preserved. And now an American Christian group is arriving, and they are going to sing, and we will be able to hear the acoustics. And here, next to the Bethesda pool, I want to say goodbye to you. But before that, remind you to subscribe to the channel and leave that like a big kiss, and see you next time here in Israel.